today we're going to learn about the compare and contrast essay. Now let's first define compare and contrast. Compare is examining the similarity of two or more things, the similarities of two or more things. And as the opposite, contrast, is examining the differences or the distinctions between two or more things. So when you compare and contrast, you compare the similarities and you contrast the differences. So then let's go back to our 5-paragraph essay, because we're still going to structure everything in that 5-paragraph format. So our first body section is always our introduction. Our introduction is going to introduce what it is we're comparing and contrasting, reasons why we may be comparing and contrasting. Maybe you were thinking about buying a certain product and we want to know the similarities and differences. Maybe we're recommending a product or something to someone. Maybe we're trying to convince someone of some political viewpoints or something like that. So there's a lot of reasons why you would compare and contrast things. So your intro is going to say why you want to compare and contrast, what you're comparing and contrasting, and then kind of give us a roadmap of where you're going with your compare and contrast. Then your 3 bodies are simple, and you can use any combination. You can compare, contrast, contrast. You can compare, compare, contrast. You can contrast, compare, contrast. You can contrast, contrast, compare. You get the picture. There's several different combinations of comparing and contrasting, but you know you need at least 3 body paragraphs, body sections of comparing and contrasting. And you don't compare and contrast in the same section. Okay, what you're comparing and contrasting should go beyond the obvious and give you enough information to have a full section on just a compare or just a contrast. For example, if we're comparing apples and oranges, the obvious one of the obvious things is they're different colors. Well, we can't write a whole paragraph over them being different colors. So we go beyond the obvious and really delve into, you're going to do, obviously, topics much more sophisticated than comparing apples and oranges. So those are your 3 body paragraphs. Then you follow up with what's always your 5th is your conclusion. Okay, and you just restate your main idea, restate your reasons comparing and contrasting, and then tie it all together into a neat package. So let's just go with a short example, and this is kind of off the top of my head, but if we were comparing, let's say, iPhones and Android phones. So maybe you are looking into getting a smartphone and you're comparing the iPhone to an Android phone. So your introduction obviously would state, I'm going to compare and contrast Android phone with iPhone. My family is in the market for a new smartphone, and thus is why I want to compare the two, and here's what I'm going to compare. So let's see, the first body, let's say compare. They're both types of smartphones. So we explain what a smartphone is, and compare how each phone has features of a smartphone and how it's used as a smartphone. Then we have a contrast. The contrast would be they both use a different platform. Now I know that seems somewhat obvious, but then you delve in deeper and explain why the platforms are different and how their differences affect how they're used. When you talk about the markets and what apps are available, things like that. And then the last contrast, the last one would be that they're different manufacturers. The iPhone is only made by Apple, whereas Android is made by several different manufacturers. So you would contrast the fact that if you're going to get an iPhone, you're only going Apple. If you get an Android phone, you're going with several different potential providers and manufacturers. So that's just in a nutshell what a compare and contrast essay is. To recap, compare is examining the similarities of two or more things. Contrasting is examining the differences of two or more things. Then you got your 5 bodies, your intro, your 3 bodies, and your conclusion. So that is your compare and contrast essay. So have a good day.